Hey, good
Hey,
morning.
hey. Misfits, Managed Nation, we are back.
Yeah, yeah. A little technical difficulties this morning, but hey,
Yeah. What's
good way to
what's life
start the week.
without some technical difficulties?
Right, right, right.
Well, on top of that, I just tried to take a drink of water and it went all over me, so that's fun.
Well, you're awake.
Yeah, it was cold too. I'm awake.
What's up, girl? How you been?
Um, my past couple weeks have thoroughly kicked my butt.
I can understand and appreciate.
Thoroughly.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but you know what? I'm here, I'm kicking, I'm learning, and I'm still walking.
Right.
Might be slow, but I'm still walking. How about you?
Yeah, about the same. I mean, mine is more personal, romantic, but just creeping over into other areas of my life. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I wanted to do this because it's crazy what relationships can do and erode other areas of your life. You know, that's just one part of your life, but it has
Yeah.
a big impact on so many other areas of your life. It's just incredible. So
Yeah. Um, so so last time we were talking and um you were talking about how some of the things that you'd been going through are making you that much stronger, which with what I'm going through, I would agree for even myself. Do you want to dive into what that might look like a little bit?
yeah, I mean, I as I said before, you know, my heart was broken in that situation, but
Yeah.
uh, I'm using that as fuel. You know, the pain of that brings a laser focus.
Yeah.
Uh, but what I didn't realize, I think, was the amount of energy that I've experienced.
Ooh.
Yeah, this was new. The
Okay.
amount of so we don't realize that in being strong and overcoming the obstacle that's in front of us, and I'm not one anymore that numbs the pain or hides from the pain or runs from the pain. So
Yeah.
I'm head on, mano a mano, face to face. But what you don't realize when you do that is the cost,
Yeah.
the amount of energy that you expire
Oh
in
yeah.
that process. That over, you know, we would say over time, meaning thinking that that's a long time, but that doesn't take a lot of time because when you wear down emotionally, then it shuts you down mentally and physically, and then
Yep.
opens you up spiritually.
Yeah.
So that's where I was. I fell into some more dark places that I just simply because I was fatigued,
Yeah.
emotionally fatigued, and couldn't process anymore. Not that I'm not, you know, as a misfit, you got to give yourself grace to be
Yeah.
human. So, and I finally realized that it's okay that I don't have to be strong every second of every day.
Oh my God. I love that you just said that because I was having a conversation a couple weeks ago and um I I mean I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, we always have to be strong. We have to be strong for ourselves, we have to be strong for other people. And I mean myself included. I'm like, but when do we give ourselves time to be okay to break?
Right.
And it occurred to me the other day that I almost felt like I had to like schedule it for it to happen at the right time, which is exhausting in itself. I don't
It's
know.
okay not to be okay.
It is.
So I had to go back into therapy mindset,
Yeah.
some cognitive thinking processes that CBT that I had gone through when I was going through therapy, and remind myself of some things because what that was doing, since I wasn't giving myself that grace, I'm imagining you're not giving yourself that grace. I'm imagining our audience is not giving them grace. because it's human nature. We
Yeah.
don't give the grace to ourselves. So what I realized that what it was costing me, because all of that comes at a cost. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
fatigue, but the one thing I pinpointed was self confidence.
Ooh.
It was a direct attack against my self confidence, and it was eroding away quickly my self confidence. So, thus, why I wanted to do Outworked Out
Yeah.
to talk about today, because um, we've got to learn to get in front of that and Outworked
Yep.
Out. Out's going to just set in
Yeah.
automatically, within ourselves, our failures, our weaknesses, our inadequacies, all these different things. Doubt's going to happen automatically. And if we don't do
Yeah.
something to counteract that or outwork it, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Um, the that speaks directly to some of the stuff that I was dealing with at, well, the end of last week into the weekend. And I got to the point where I went in to the place that I go in my room and shut the door, and you know I had tears rolling down my face, and I was just like, I keep trying to force this, but
Right.
it me forcing it, all the things that I was trying to force because I like control, um all of those things, I'm sitting there, and because I'm trying to force it instead of um trusting in the steps, was leading to those feelings of inadequacy in a lot of different places. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I know this isn't true. I know that that's not true. I know that, I'm overthinking this. But it was truly that piece of, I was behind it instead of like, how do I get in front of this?
Well, and we have to learn to be intentional. I know we both know this.
Yeah.
As I just said, doubt is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just doubt's going to be there every single day, 24/7, 365. And if we don't do something to counteract that intentionally, then doubt outworks us instead of us outworking doubt. Misfits Managed Nation, are you going to outwork your doubt today?
So how do we do that? How have you been doing that?
Well, so I just been looking inside and working on what are some things that I can do. Let's not even talk about the word doubt.
Yeah.
What can I do to increase or raise my confidence? Um, what, and I guess it starts with what is confidence?
There you go.
For me, confidence is a belief that I can do it. Or, in terms of the show, confidence is a belief that you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. All of us can do it. It's got to start there, right?
It does. And I would even almost take that a step further because I think in a previous version of myself, I would probably say I always thought like confidence was knowing that I could do something well. And yes and no, because now confidence for me is knowing that I can learn how to do something well, and knowing that I can figure it out, because I'm not going to be great at something the first time I start it, the first time I try it. Um, and confidence, that's really become my definition, is knowing that I'm good enough and I'm smart enough to figure it out no matter what it is. You'll laugh at this, knowing
Mhm.
how I am and what things I like. Um, I started a cash flow budgeting table last week, and I'm starting it thinking like my anxiety immediately just shot up because um, I hate that stuff with a burning passion.
Budgeting.
But I'm like, okay, how I'm going through some finances, going through all that stuff, and it it had nothing to do it has a goal that I want to get to, but it has nothing to do with um the end goal yet, I will say. It is a gathering of the information, but
Mm,
I'm sitting there thinking, I don't like this. I'm not good at this. My brain's struggling to understand like what even I need to have in this cash flow budget. And I had to keep going back thinking, all I'm doing is gathering information. Like it is what I want to make it.
right.
And I add the details in as I figure out that I need them. It doesn't have to be, this perfect drawn out the first time, because I'm figuring out what I need. I'm figuring out what things I need to be able to see.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not confident in that right now, but I'm sure as heck learning, and I I'm I'm proud of myself for how much I've figured it out thus far.
Right. That's good. And I think to your point, we become more confident doing things that we're not confident in doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is to build confidence to do stuff I'm already strong at or good at. You build confidence in yourself by doing things that are outside your reach or out your realm, and then having success, even if it's partial success.
Yes.
We may not fully succeed in that area, but if we take number one, we took the step to
Yeah.
try. And if we gained any ground, I mean, that just builds onto that confidence. So,
Yeah.
Just had a quick question for y'all because y'all said that four-letter word. I know it's actually six letters and everything along those lines, but to me, it's a four-letter word because I've been trying to do better with budgeting as well and everything. So that's the word that I was talking about and everything like that. And I've recently had Rocket Money, which is a
yeah,
budgeting app and everything along those lines. And I realized that a lot of the money that probably could be going to household and could go into other things that even us as single folks, which I am part of, which y'all are not part of necessarily, and everything, but even us can have in that club and everything. Going to my stomach, and I was sitting there going, "I go, this is scary." That a large percentage of the money was going to eating out and doing things like that because of having that rush life and all of that kind of things, and being engaged in a number of things. So it's sometimes easier to go to the fast food restaurant, wherever that may be, versus going to the grocery store. But yeah, I've noticed that budget and me are not friends. So that's why it's a four-letter word. So I just wondered how you got by that and everything. And because, like I said, I have seen where the money is going, and it's not going to overly frivolous things like entertainment and things like that, but it is definitely going to the stomach.
You know, I my end goal is to say, okay, where can I let some things go, or where is this part of things that I'm paying for, like what do I not need anymore? What am I paying for? Literally paying for that um I don't need to be, that is just there because it's there, and I used to need it, maybe I don't need more. And right now it is purely an information gathering, because I'm like, okay, you know, I hate the thing that my banks send me at the end of the year, that's like, here's where all of your money has gone. Here's where you're spending your stuff. And yes, that is informational, and it is just like we want you to know. But part of it is an insecurity of, I know I'm spending things in places that I don't need to be spending things when I know I should be spending it somewhere else. But it starts with awareness. And that's what I'm telling myself right now is I'm like, okay, I drives me nuts. And Gary, you would know that now I have his picture in my head, and now I can't think of it. Mr. Unstoppable.
Oh, yeah.
Where the class that Gary and I met in, one of the guys that runs
BTBY.
that, yeah, one of the guys that runs that is
Terrence.
always talking about, yeah, Terrence, there we go. Thank you. It's always talking about things that are trackable. And yes, finances are highly trackable. But some of the things that we want to make happen are not trackable. But right now it is solely about tracking to see, okay, what does this look like and where does it need to shift? Because I don't know, maybe you enjoy eating out, even though it may not be super economical, it may not be as healthy, but if it's something that you enjoy, then you don't have to stop. You just maybe don't do it as much. So
My only suggestion on budgeting, which Mark, I love Rocket Money. I'm going back to, because I want to be so disciplined right now. I'm going back to my envelopes.
oh, I used to do that.
Envelope method, because you do cash, break it down into your envelopes based on your budget, and so your out to eat budget, when you eclipse the budget, I mean,
It's gone.
gone, and you can't eat out anymore. You got to go do something else. It forces your hand to now, well, I got money in the grocery budget, so I got to go buy some food and cook. And now
Yep.
maybe I got to be creative since I'm busy, and maybe I need to meal prep.
Yeah.
There's a thought, Mark.
There's a thought, and I like that thought, and because sometimes you also get into the habit, I know I do, of overextending ourselves. Because the other part of the budget that I don't like seeing all that much in, which I've been trying to do better at, is that banks and credit cards, particularly banks, they love to give you those penalty fees and all along those lines. So those can be real fun, because then you see money going out that you didn't necessarily have. So the money went out because you tried to overextend yourself. So a lot of people do that, and I know I'm guilty of that as well and everything. I did have a question for you, Coach D, because you're a coach, and then I will let y'all get back to y'all's regularly scheduled conversation and everything like that. But you talked about trackable and all along those lines. And I sometimes think that we don't like to track things that we are aware of and everything like that, because I sometimes think, and this comes back to relationships, that we know what types we get into and what types of relationships we get into and everything like that. And they can be very trackable, but we don't want to admit what we are attracted to and the types of things that we are attracted to and all along those situations. Because I know that I have been in several relationships that I probably knew were bad for me before they got in, but they felt so good at the time that I wasn't going to see the red flags and all along those lines. I just wanted your thoughts about that, because that's something that is trackable, because we know who we've been engaged with and what types of people we've been engaged with, and we know why we like them and why we don't like them and all along those lines. But sometimes I think we don't want to track it as much as we want to track our money.
Well, but I think that speaks into what we're talking about today, self-doubt. That we see red flags. We just don't want to pivot away or out of that, because we're like, well, I can't do any better. This is the best I'm going to get. So I just had to succumb to this. And my situation was a little different, because I was caught off guard. I didn't see red flags until the last minute. And now, post the relationship, on the outside looking in, now I see them. I see them all over the place. They were hidden very well. Chameleon, people pleaser. And when you're around people that are like that, They're going to say and do the things that are necessary to keep you happy, but that's not really who they are.
Right.
So unfortunately, I had to learn that the hard way. But I'll say this to you before you jump off with regard to finance, Mark. You must first build belief that you can budget,
Yeah.
and then once you build a belief, that's what builds the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you can take that whole sentence and apply it anywhere. We're talking about budgeting and finance, but you got to first build belief in yourself that you're competent to do these different things, and then that belief is what builds the confidence. So
that makes sense. So I'll let you go back to the conversation, but yeah, I couldn't resist when I heard that 4-letter word. I was going like, oh, there's a 4-letter word that I know all too well.
Well, I'm gonna throw this one at you.
Okay.
This point that Mark kind of let us down, because this is both of us, because we do affirmations.
Okay.
When I wrote this down, I was like, oh my God, this is good. But because we both believe in affirmations, mirror work and telling yourself stuff. But I got to say, you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror.
No.
It's a step, and it's a good step, but you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror. You become confident by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. So yes, the daily affirmations are great. And Misfits Manage, we want you to understand, don't stop doing that, because that's the start, that pushes you to create the action. It's your words you're speaking into existence, but it's having that stack, that just keeps building of undeniable proof, even to yourself. When you flip back through it and you're like, man, I am great. I am a good person. I am a good husband. I am a good boyfriend. I am a good businessman. I am a good father or friend or uncle, whatever it is. You've got that undeniable proof right there in front of you. What do you think about that?
I love that you pose a question like that, because that is why the book and my catchphrase are all about that. And about, I don't know, probably about 10 years ago now, maybe just a little bit less, I did not have the so-called confidence to believe that I could do things, to think I was good enough at doing things. And I would start things and it would get hard, and then I got distracted and didn't finish, and I'm like, oh, I just chalked it up to I can't do it. I'm not good enough to do it. And it wasn't until I got so sick of that being the, replaying verse in my head, that I finally said, okay, this is what I want to do. And I started chipping away at it, one thing at a time. Becoming a speaker, I knew I could do it, but I sure as heck wasn't good when I started. In fact, I couldn't put thoughts together in a way that anybody else knew what the heck I was talking about. My thoughts were very broken. One of the speeches I wrote for Toastmasters, my mentor read it, and she goes, this is very, very disjointed. And I'm like, yeah, that tracks. But having her walk me through things, I got better, and I learned to reread it and keep rereading it and say, okay, this is where I need to connect things. This is where I need to do things. I got better at that. Boom. Evidence. I can do this. I took the action to do it.
Undeniable evidence.
Undeniable evidence. It is right there. I can do it. Writing a book. I have zero writing past formal education, nothing. I knew I had a story to tell, and I knew I had something I wanted to say to the world, and it was something I needed to put in writing. It's like, okay, what are the sections I want to write? What are the things I want to say to people? And it was a matter of putting words on paper and getting the thought out, getting the thing out that I wanted to say. Before you knew it, I was like, okay, well, I have all of these different files of chapters. Time to go to Google and say, how the heck do you self-publish a book? How do you do this? How do you get the artwork? How do you actually do this? I had to learn a lot of terms. A publishing term is the bleed in pages. I was like, the what now? And I had zero idea what that meant, but I learned.
Right.
And now I have a whole bunch of odd facts in my head about what that actually means. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, yeah. And all of a sudden, boom, got a book self-published. Physical evidence of, didn't know how to do it, but I can figure it out.
Right.
And then building a website. I do not have an IT brain. I have zero idea how to actually code, but I can go learn how to do stuff. I can, and let me be perfectly clear. When I was learning how to do all these things, 90% of the time, I would want to throw my computer out the window because I was so frustrated. I was hitting so many roadblocks. And I'm like, no, this is where the neuroelasticity happens because I am pushing through the frustration, and I'm going to train my brain to push through the frustration of learning it, of figuring out and trusting myself that I can push through that frustration. And then all of a sudden, I had a website. Not saying it was super pretty.
That's okay.
But all of a sudden, I was building confidence to know that I could figure it out, even if I had zero idea how to do it before. And that built the trust in myself to be like, I have zero idea what this is going to look like. I have zero idea how to do it right now, but I know I can figure it out.
That's good. I think you end what you just said with outwork your doubt, because that's what you just did.
Yep.
You literally outworked your doubt. You could have succumbed to the doubt because it was all around you the whole time. You could have succumbed to that, but you outworked it.
Yeah. And you know, the whole I absolutely I probably had a lot of people looking at me like, why are you doing this? Like, you have zero experience with this. But believe it or not, the bigger voices that I heard were inside my head saying, you have zero experience with this. Who are you to do any of this? You're not good enough to figure it out. And honestly, I had to be like, sit down, shut your trap, and watch this. Hold my drink real quick.
Right.
And
okay.
Honestly, that had to be another skill because I have to use that every freaking day to this day. And sometimes I have to put that ego down a little bit and be like, okay, I need to slow down because I tend to be a doer. But I don't know that there's a point in time where you just have to trust yourself to be like, you know what? I know I can do it. I'm going to figure out how to not do it about 18,000 ways like Einstein.
Right.
But he figured it out, or else this room behind me wouldn't be all lit up.
Right. Well, you just validated the point again that we had talked about earlier, that you become confident doing things that are outside of your realm.
Yeah.
That you stretched yourself not only did you outwork your doubt, but you stretched yourself to a point that it forced confidence. You know,
Yeah.
every step that you took was a victory, and you got to celebrate that. So that's powerful. Good stuff, girl. Oh, that reminds me of conversations in the past. Because you're a
Uh-oh.
YouTuber, you went and self-taught yourself on YouTube.
You love my Google University, don't you?
Yeah, so I was like, I just thought about that. I was like, there's so much stuff I need to work on that I'm waiting on other people that I just need to just jump out there and do it myself.
Well, I mean, that honestly, that's how I figured out that. So let's connect this thought before I just start talking here. I used to be a Food Network junkie, and one of the ladies that used to have a show on there, her show is called Semi Homemade, and I use that a lot in like everything I do. So like even this budgeting thing that I came up with is very much of a semi homemade, meaning you take things that are already made, already created. I didn't buy them in this case, but already store bought.
Mhm.
And you doctor them up, you put your touch on it. So in budgeting's case, like I knew I wanted to do something. I knew there was a way to do it. I knew how to start. And then I started looking up saying, okay, I need somebody to give me a general structure. Now I need somebody to say, here's how to do this next piece. So I had the base of what I wanted to do. And then I looked external and said, okay, I love reinventing the dang wheels. I love it. I am notorious for making things too hard. And at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm not the first person that's needed to do this.
Right.
I'm not the first person that has needed help with this. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let somebody else tell me how to do that instead of me spending the time and energy
Right. Right.
into getting frustrated and figuring it out.
No, it's good. But again, I see that as a confidence and recognize the limitations and being confident to accept someone else's ways that ultimately help you. So
Yeah.
I want to throw something else at you. This is another point I want to pivot into.
Okay.
I'm wondering what your thoughts going to be here, but I think we're on the same page. So a person who has self-confidence. Wait, let's see. How am I going to say this? Well, the reality is actions build experience. Okay, actions build experience. Experience builds confidence, and finally, competence leads to confidence. But it all starts with taking one action. So that's what I was saying earlier, that we can't throw out the daily affirmations yelling in the mirror.
Yeah.
Because that's the action that starts the whole wheel that you were just talking about in motion. What do you think of that? I think that maybe I should have said toward the end, but I think for me, summarized and brought to life where I was at and where I was trying to go to pull myself out of the hole that the relationship had left me with, sucking away my self-confidence.
I have a reminder on my phone every morning that comes up and says affirmations.
Ditto.
I have a firm belief that you have to your mind gets somewhere before your body and your energy does. So you have to learn how to channel that and use that as a tool. So I used to have, I still have the affirmations. They have changed. I have shifted them per season of life, etc.
Should always be updating that anyway, so that's good.
Yep. The other thing, I think I've talked about this a long time ago. I don't remember for sure. Years ago, I was on a group coaching call, and he said, come up with 3 single words, not phrases, but words of attributes or things that you would like to be. At the time, my words were brave, bold, and confident. So in my phone, multiple times a day, I had reminders coming up that said, be brave, be bold, and be confident. And it just kept it in the forefront of my mind to what can I do today to be those things?
Right.
What actions can I take, small, even small or large, to be those things? And again, those have now changed. I just changed them within the last couple weeks, actually, based on my season of life. It now says faith over worry. I tend to worry about lots of things, stupid anxiety. But it is to help me get there and have faith in what's happening, have faith in what's going to happen, and that I will get the tools and resources, whatever I need for things to happen when the right time for them to come to me is. So it is, Lauren, instead of getting yourself all worked up, being overly worried about why something is or isn't happening, all of that stuff. Faith over worry. And I get in those spirals, and then that comes across my phone, and I'm like, oh yeah. Say a prayer, have faith instead of worrying, because worrying is just me not having the faith or not being strong enough in the faith that I want to have, right?
Right.
And,
it's doubt working.
Yeah. So it's a daily struggle for me right now. I'm working on it, but
I'd say it's struggle for all of us.
It is something that I'm like, okay, how do I shift and put those affirmations into something that is not just me yelling at myself in the mirror in the morning? It is also that, but something that is like, I need constant reminders, because, the middle of the day, something bad happens in the morning or something that frustrates me. It reminds me to sit, take a deep breath, and say, what can I control? What can I not control? Have faith instead of worrying, because, well,
wouldn't you say the affirmations, again, I'm glad that we were touching on that, because I don't want people to think we're attacking, don't do the affirmations. You gotta do the affirmations.
Yeah.
But I love, there's a couple things there that they have to be updated. I mean, as you evolve and mature and grow, you have to update your affirmations. It can't be the same thing that you said 5-10 years ago. It can't be the same thing you said a year ago. It can't be the same thing you said a month ago. It can be similar, but it's got to evolve as you evolve. So, man, I just lost my thought on the other point.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. It'll come to me. But again, these are steps that I love, that you're building confidence. You're taking, maybe that was measurable, that your affirmations have to become measurable.
How do you do that?
It's not good enough just to yell it in the mirror, but that's where the accountability comes into play. You've got to hold yourself accountable, which, I don't know, kind of, I'll answer that question here in this next point, because that's where I was like, this is a perfect segue. I can't wait to see your face on this one. So, because this is us, or us here on the show and people in general, a person who has no self-confidence, okay, if you really, really dial that down, break it down, um, is a person who has consistently lied to themselves. You are a person who has broken your word to yourself so many times, you no longer believe that you can keep your word to yourself. That was sobering.
Yeah.
That was a quote I heard, and I had to sit there and be like, dang.
And I think that's completely true. We just mask it in different verbiage.
Let's really chew, because I think out of all that we said, this is the root cause right here. That we blame society, we blame, different experiences, all these outside stimuli, when really at the end of the day, when we look in that mirror and do the affirmations, it's us lying to ourselves, because we say we're going to do this, we say we're going to do that. So, like, for example, I've been saying, I'm going to get tighter in my finances. I'm going to get back in the gym and work out. I got 30 pounds to lose. I'm going to write more. I'm going to read more. I'm going to pray more. I'm going to study my Bible more. I'm going to do all these things. And all it takes is a hiccup or a bump in the road. And I don't do it. And what do we do? We push it off. Well, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow.
Yep.
Or I'll start Monday. Today's
Yep.
Monday, and I'll start Monday. I don't know how many times I've told myself that in situations.
Oh, God.
It's me again and everything. I was just wondering, how do you get past that and everything? I know y'all have been talking about this whole time and everything, because I've been saying for the last, y'all even heard me say on this show, for the last probably year and a half and everything, that I'm going to get out and get back to the walk by the lake that's near me and enjoy nature. And I may get out for a brief walk. I don't live that far. Y'all have seen it in one of the other backgrounds from Duke Gardens and everything. And I keep saying, I'm going to get out there and really enjoy the nature and really enjoy the sunshine and everything like that. And like you just said, then something comes up or some work comes up or something else comes up. And then I look at it and it's midnight and I'm going like, well, I didn't do it today, so I guess I'll do it tomorrow. And it's that constant delay and procrastination, because I do know that is one of my faults, is procrastination and everything like that. So how do you get yourself out of that bad habit and actually get to doing something that can be good for you, like going out for a walk in nature?
Go ahead, Lauren. You had your hand up.
Do I get to go?
Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't know. I mean, I got an answer too, but go ahead.
The things that I do for that is, first of all, Mark, I think you may have this in common with me, is that you have like all these things you want to do and you try to do them all at the same time. You're like, I can do every one of these things before noon on Monday, and then noon on Monday hits and you're like, oh, it's already noon on Monday. Okay. So pick one.
Oh, you can't see it.
That's not working, G.
I was going to show you my calendar to what you just said.
Yeah. Pick one.
Mm-hmm.
And then figure out how that's going to look. There's a social worker in my small group who says, Lauren, one thing at a time, what's your next step?
Right.
Just the next step. And that has helped me tremendously. The other piece that is how I have to do it, mm-hmm. is attach the new habit or the new thing that you want to do to something that you're excited and that you already do. Like, you need to do it, but it's a pain in the butt. You got to get out there and do it. Attach it to something else that's going to actually make you go do it because you're excited to do it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Gee.
Yep. No, I just look at myself and I'm like, because I had to do it today because today's Monday. So I got a list of, can't see my phone, but I got a list of Monday items. I pride myself about if it's in my phone, I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe you got to write stuff down. So add that to the list, Mark. If you want to get it done, you got to write it down. So
you can't see mine either, but there's all my stuff.
Right. But it's written down in my phone, which means now I just go down. I even have it timed. I have it color coordinated. And I have to systematically go down and do everything for each day. But there was days that I just like, let me just move that to the next day. Move that to the next day. But it started this morning in the affirmation that I'm going to hold myself accountable to my calendar on my phone. If it is in my phone, it has to be done. So back to Mark, the envelopes.
Yeah.
We talked about earlier. I can't move to the next envelope until I've exhausted this envelope. I can't do this activity until I've done that activity. I have to go, and I've already, in the order it's in, I've already prioritized it. So it's simple. We talked about that earlier, right, Lauren? It's simple. If I just go down the list, the time, by the end of the day, I have built confidence because I've taken the time to build it myself all day long. And now I have undeniable evidence of success, which breeds confidence.
Yeah.
Simple.
Small scale, simple. Yeah.
I did have another quick question, and we'll bounce off again and everything. But I had an interesting experience Friday and everything. Y'all are going to think I'm going down a rabbit hole, but it's not a total rabbit hole and everything. But y'all know I do history talks at the cultural center that I work at and everything. And this past Friday, I actually had to get to the center a little bit earlier than usual because we had an invasion of the Quakers, like literally an invasion of the Quakers. They were having a Quaker Youth Leadership Conference. The Quaker is like the Quaker religious organization and everything. But there was somebody that wanted to hear me speak. So when I was originally scheduled to speak, I didn't speak until about 30 minutes to an hour later because he had something happen in his life. You'll get this, Lauren, and everything. I think he had a sick member in the family, or it might even been one of the sick Quakers and everything. So he had to literally get them back to their place where they were at and then come back to the center. So it was a delay that wasn't my fault. So it was like, how do you deal with procrastinations that aren't necessarily your procrastinations and everything? Because it took me a minute to still stay engaged because I wanted to keep the kids engaged and everything, but also not lose my focus because of something that was out of my control.
I'm big on controlling my controllables.
Right.
I'm big on controlling. I say that to my students at the college every day. Let's focus on controlling what we can control. And I just, literally brush it aside, brush it away. I'm not going to, I don't know, that's 25. I'm not going to give energy to things that I have absolutely no control over.
Right.
So, back to what we started when we're talking about my relationship situation. It's easy for me to sit in a pity party and woe is me and why did this happen to me and all of that. But I can't control her thoughts and her actions and what the things that she did. I can only control my responses to those things. So I don't give energy to that stuff, Mark, anymore. You just pivot. So you've set a goal and someone else doesn't necessarily do their part, then you reevaluate, reset the goal, and keep moving.
Yeah. That's interesting because what I wound up doing, and I didn't think about it, but I knew the young lady. I've known her. She's actually kind of reminds me of Lauren in terms of their physical look and everything like that. But she actually told me that the person wanted to come back because they were very much wanting to hear me speak, which is why they put it off and everything. So I took that as a compliment. So that since that was a compliment, I was like, well, wait a minute. So y'all are going to delay this whole thing because this man wants to hear me? I'm nobody. I'm just me and everything. So I took it as a affirmation. You talk about affirmation. I took it as an affirmation. They were like giving me some feedback that this person was so enthralled by what I was going to say that they would delay it for the kids and everything like that. So I took it as a form of an affirmation and everything.
Okay, but this, Mark, I have two more points. This one is what you just said. So people see you through your eyes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do we realize that?
Yeah.
People see us through our own eyes. So when you doubt yourself, You don't believe in yourself, you're causing others to doubt you and not believe in you because they're seeing you as you see yourself.
Right.
So you saw yourself as a confident person and a competent person. So of course they wanted to come back and see you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So that the affirmation is a positive affirmation along those lines. Yeah. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
You're quiet on that one, Lauren.
I had you covered it. I didn't need to say anything, but the other thing I was gonna add is I don't know. There's something about rolling with the punches and accepting that like things are gonna happen and we're human and people like seeing the human side of us and that we want everything to be perfect and it's actually better for people when you are not perfect and that you have to roll with it. And I actually make a point to when something happens like that, I'm like, hey, well, here's what was supposed to happen. This didn't happen, so we're going with it.
Right.
Yesterday, I co-lead a ADHD KC women's group, and we met yesterday. My co-leader had to be at the hospital because she was on call for something, and she called me like 2 hours before and said, I can't make it. And I got there a little bit later because I had to leave my son's basketball game. And I walked in, there was already 2 people there. And I was like, I don't see how to connect my PowerPoint. I don't see how to connect my computer here. And I haven't even looked at this PowerPoint. So we'll scroll through it real quick. Let me find it. And we're just going to roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
It makes you human. And honestly, I think it kind of adds some comical humor and it takes down the it just makes the atmosphere lighter when you're just like, I'm human. Things happen.
I think it disarms people when you can learn to just flow.
Yeah.
It shows that you are unstoppable. You mentioned Terrence earlier. It just you're always moving forward and you won't allow anything to go get in the way of your goal, which again builds confidence. These are all things that we're talking about that outwork doubt.
Yeah. Who's our misfit that the event planner? Because I know we've talked about it before and everything, but I know that there's a lot of times, because I know I've done it as both an MC and an event planner, that there's a lot of times that we are not getting the things happen out of our control, just like you said earlier, and we can sit there and grumble about them. I know that I've mispronounced names and I've done other things, and I can sit there and fret about it. But most of the times, as I've learned, the audience is just looking for a good show, and they're not necessarily caring about the minor errors and everything along those lines. And I had to get to that point and everything. There was a time that I used to fret over those minor errors and everything. And I was like, they probably didn't notice that I mispronounced that artist's name or that we started 5 minutes late or whatever. And I'm trying to think, you know who I'm talking about, which is one of the regular Misfits that is also an event planner. Thank you.
So one thing I do, and Gary, I don't remember if you do this or not. When I mispronounce a word, I make a large point to go back and say it right, slow, out loud, and put some sarcasm on it because I always get laughs when I do that. And I'm like, it might be the easiest word, and I'm like, and I purposefully do that because it adds some comical relief, and I don't know, it makes everybody laugh. So I actually just kind of learned to have fun with that.
Yeah, turns an error or weakness into a strength.
Yeah,
right.
Real time.
Yep.
Real time.
Let me throw this last one at you guys.
Okay.
Self-esteem is earned.
Mm.
It's earned by yourself, not from the praises of people.
Okay, you're gonna have to dig into that one while I chew on it.
Yeah, people have to chew on that one. Self-esteem is earned. That's thus self-esteem, self-confidence. It comes from within. And it's an addition if it's praises of people, that's good. But people can praise you all day long. So I'm thinking about, again, back to my relationship situation. People, my tribe poured into me during that situation. But until I took a hold of the things that they were saying, they were just idle words spoken to me. And I know everybody, including Lauren, it was all to help and support, encourage, uplift. But until I got to a place where I believed that and I could say that to myself, it was a moot point.
Yeah.
So self-esteem is self-earned. Self-confidence is self-earned. We just talked about all these building blocks that we do within ourselves or to ourselves to build confidence. And it's icing on the cake that we get from the praises of the people.
It's interesting you say that and everything, because sometimes I think, because I know I'm guilty of it, I don't know about the two of you, but sometimes we're so much, you mentioned earlier, people pleasers and everything like that, but we're so caught up in self-esteem that we need to have a affirmation from others and everything. Because I know I've been guilty of that in my life, where I know that I've done a confident presentation, or I've been confident in myself, but sometimes in order to validate it and everything, I have to hear it from somebody else. And sometimes I'll even ask to get that validation. And sometimes I have to have confidence in myself that I did a good job and not necessarily need that validation. And validation can be it can be nice and everything, but sometimes we are, I don't want to say forcing the validation, but we're asking for that validation when we need to have confidence in ourselves and everything along those lines. I
would venture to say that's pseudo self-esteem or self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That's not real, because real self-confidence, you don't need an affirmation from anybody.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that earned self-esteem is, I would essentially like taking a medication being affirmations and taking action, right? That self-esteem is then your side effect. It's a side product.
Ooh.
But I mean, in all honesty, like, it's kind of this thing that, like, you're doing all this stuff and everything else just kind of falls into place. I say that I make that sound a lot easier than this, because it's not easy. And it takes a lot of inner work. It takes a lot of release. But as you do everything else and you work on building your confidence from the inside out, the self-esteem is then a byproduct, side effect of doing all of those things.
Because we talked about actions. It's got to start with an action. Works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're winding down, but I do have a quick question for both of you and everything. But what do you do, speaking of self-esteem, when you know that there are people in your tribe that are, for lack of a better term, hypercritical? Because I do have some family members that can be hypercritical and everything, and sometimes that can tear down your self-esteem. So sometimes I even avoid some of those family members because I know that they might be hypercritical on, Lauren, to that point we were talking about earlier, grammar and some of the pronunciations and things like that, just because they might have a better grasp on that than I do. So sometimes they can be hypercritical and everything. So how do you deal with that hypercritical force that can sometimes tear down at your self-esteem?
The thing that I have learned to do is two things.
I got two.
One is learn to understand that where they are critical is where they are weak.
Mm-hmm.
It is their insecurities projecting on you. It doesn't make it easier. It just kind of rationalizes it for you. Number two, have fun with it. My scatter, we joke about squirrels on here a lot. But all of those things, like me being weird, me being quirky, like me being distracted, all of those things, like, I'm not saying this that he's being critical, but like some of the things that drives Nathan the most nuts is the things that sometimes I get distracted on, or if I answer a question in a completely different way than what, and not even give him the answer, he's like, you got a lot of squirrels today, don't you? So I was like, they are all over.
Yeah.
But having fun with it and being playful like that, because I know that's him being like, seriously, you couldn't just answer my question. I want the question. I want the answer. This is all I want. And my brain tries to go somewhere else with it. So having fun with it, and it takes the power away from it being critical. And I don't know, they just kind of learn to laugh it off, and it changes the it changes the weight of it, I guess.
Right. Mine would be real quick because Lauren, you kind of stole some of my thunder there too. But
Sorry.
I just pivot, roll with the punches. So I'll say boundaries is setting boundaries because I'm not going to allow that person to tear me down. And then what I said earlier, Mark, controlling my controllables. I can't control their thoughts and actions, and I don't allow them to control mine. So,
what did I steal your thunder on? What were you gonna say with
your
that?
points. I loved your points.
Okay.
Yeah, those were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say you can have the same thunder. Share it.
Yeah. I pivoted.
But I mean that I think that just goes to show that the same points are applicable in lots of different places.
Right. It's a good show.
Yeah.
It's a good welcome back show. So
Yeah.
Cool.
I needed that. I needed to get that out. So, but I definitely got to jump because I got to get to work. But
I was gonna say I got to get going here. But Misfits Imagination, it was good to be back with you. It's good to be back with Gary and Mark, and yay for next week.
Yeah, felt good.
It's a very good show. So we'll leave with a little bit of a note about mental health, and of course, Lauren's got her commercial and everything. There's somebody that I know that hasn't gotten theirs yet and everything along those lines. So I have to take a little slight dig.
I got to do it.
Cool. But we're going to get on out of here and everything like that. But great conversation. Y'all are always amazing.
Yeah, it's been your boy, Coach G.
And Lauren.
And their producer, Mark. Right now, we're going to get on out of here.
If you're watching this with your friends,
you'll probably make a joke.
Because you know what you feel on the inside
isn't what you want people to know.
If you have to pretend to be happy,
find someone you trust and tell them.
If you get mad at things and you don't know why, or have thoughts about hurting yourself,
find someone you trust and tell them.
You are never alone when you share.
Seriously, people care about you.
It's okay to not understand what you're feeling.
And it's easy to think that you're all alone.
But you don't have to be.
You're never alone when you share.
Don't be ashamed to tell someone you trust what you're feeling.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Find someone you trust and tell them.
Tell a parent.
Tell a teacher. Tell a brother or sister.
Or just tell a friend.
You haven't done anything wrong.
Talk to someone.
Talk to someone.
It's how things get better.
Hey, Misfits Imagination. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I so appreciate you. I know Gary and I both appreciate you. I wanted to let you know, though, that being a misfit doesn't stop here. It is a piece of you, and it is a piece that we have to live with every day. But the good news is we can make good from being a misfit, even though it is chalked up to being a bad thing. Let's talk about how to make being a misfit is good. Let us talk about being a phoenix and rising from the ashes. And I want to help you do that through Forged by Fire. That is how you can work with me. And we would do coaching, we can do consulting, we can do one-on-one or group. I also do speaking opportunities. But let's get that inner misfit shining the way you were meant to.